Here I go. Denene, good morning.
Good morning. Hi,
Really good
Morven.
to meet you.
Indeed.
Um, just for anyone listening, I just wanted to contextualize this a bit. I had put out a post, on an online channel called Facebook, asking if mothers would like to get together and speak about what's going on planet Earth. What a effing mess it is, but also, is this like a cosmic moment for birthing a freed planet and freed humanity? And I wanted to make a few statements before we root through some of it together, because I had felt from childhood there was something very wrong with how we live on planet Earth. And the two phrases that I'd heard from the grown-ups around me really frightened me: earn a living and the cost of living. So I disapprove entirely of having to pay for my existence on planet Earth via financial systems. I disapprove of it. I'm not interested in fake concepts like abundance and new cryptocurrencies and all the rest of it. But I genuinely, from my own inner voice or inner knowing or communion with the cosmos, whatever you want to call it, from me, myself, and I, without any studying, I have heard that it's the liberation era, that is the potential for humanity, that we have a chance. And this sort of sign was the 2020 fake killer plague story. We have a chance to say, we're taking matters into our own hands now. We want a free planet. We want a freed humanity. And really, I felt so, it's like none of us know where to start in a way. Loads of us have sort of been aware of things for decades, but it doesn't matter how long anyone's been aware of something. It's not a competition. But jobs, careers, financial systems that are dictated to us by overlords means to me we live in a slavery realm. We've been born into captivity. What are we going to do about it? And particularly for us that are mums, and I know so many mums who, once they become a mum, they cannot deny anymore that there's something really wrong on planet Earth. It's not just, is it home ed or is it private school or is it Steiner school? It's no, the whole planet is unsafe because the Mother Earth is not, neither she is being mothered nor her children, us, the creatures, the soils, the waters, the airs. No one is nurtured in a precious, nurturing, mothering, natural way. And it just feels to me like it's so gone beyond being able to think about it, talk about it, do courses on it. It's like we are right in the middle of, to me, deathing the old world, fertilizing the womb or the fertile soil for a possibility of a new earth, of freedom. However, I've noticed there are loads of people saying things like that that have no intention of that happening. And the challenge that it feels that we've all got is discerning who are the deceivers? Why are they bringing deception? Is it that they copy what it is that we are desiring and longing for in our hearts and wanting to birth? And then do they repackage it and say, we've got it for you. We're going to do that for you. You just sit around, slaves. And also we'll have a giant AI computer to do it all. And it's been very frightening the last 3 years, not only to hear the killer plague story, which to me was false, via my inner said, this is false. This is a false narrative. That was frightening enough. But to then, the last 3 years have been in this overwhelm of information and truth links and having to root through everything, like, how are they deceiving us? Who is deceiving us? How are they deceiving us? And what the actual F do we do when most people still in some ways want to cling on to jobs, careers, money? But at the same time, the New World Order players will say, you will own nothing and be happy. And it's like, well, that already has happened. We don't own anything anyway, and we're not happy. So, Denene, it's over to you. I'd love to hear how it is that you've experienced life on planet Earth in the last 3 years.
It's like a false happiness that so many people portray. It really is. And at the start of this nonsense, 3.5 years ago, did believe enough of it to be embroiled in it, but with some uneasiness. Like really, you know, but we enjoyed the time with the children. So when the schools were off, we enjoyed it. And it was just gradually things weren't making sense. And the queuing up outside supermarkets, I think I did that twice. And the first time, there was a man who just, you know, he just ignored the queue. He just walked in the shop, and I was sort of incredulous, like, wow, he's disobeying. Now, I've never been one to follow rules particularly, but I was drawn into this enough. But I just kept seeing odd little things that made me think there are alternatives, you know, and in the supermarket with the, oh God, horrendous masks, and a couple walking about normally. I was sort of creeping up, following them. How are they being normal? And then I thought, I want to be you. I want it. And then, yeah, it was for me with the masks, I thought, and the school, when it came to the children, everything started to just feel crushing. And it was just a whirlwind of what is going on. It really was a culmination. And I thought, if they bring masks in schools, no. You know, it's no. So yeah, my son didn't wear a mask. Only one out of 240 children.
Yeah.
And I emailed so many parents. A few months later, I emailed 500 people on my friends list with a poem I'd written. All about bringing in the testing, really what is going on. And it was like tumbleweed, the majority. And I thought, am I losing the plot? You know, and at first, when I started to change my mind about the narrative, my husband, are you now following, you know, other family members who were going against the narrative? But then gradually he realized as well. And I just feel so grateful that as a family, we are on the same page about what's going on.
That's unusual.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that. But going to the school one day, to be told to collect my son because he'd been in close contact, I you know, he must isolate. There's nothing wrong with my son. And in fact, we were going down to London to a protest a few days later. So there's no isolation happening. But it was a break time. And there was just this swarm of the youngest age group coming towards me for their break down the corridor, pretty much all in masks, bar maybe two. So over 200 young children. I felt overwhelmed, and I got out of that school and I burst into tears. And my son said, that's how I've been feeling. You know, he'd been surrounded, and he'd had those comments, you know, you're gonna granny killer. And I thought, what are we doing to children? Why can't parents see we're muzzling I used to think the word muzzle was too strong of a word. And then I realized it isn't. It isn't. I just didn't want to believe that's what it was and what it was doing to our children and shutting them down and closing them down. So it's trying to get the children to realize their own potential and power to say no themselves. I was outside the secondary school with a placard, you can take off your masks and breathe freely, one day after school. And I had children coming up to me, we can't go to school unless we wear a mask. I said, my son is in school not wearing a mask. You can. Like, it is, I just couldn't believe the lack of concern on this grand scale. And so it was a very uneasy relationship with the secondary school at that point. I was backwards and forwards emailing, you know, they were locking the children into the different zones in the school. In classroom, you know, my son had come, we can't turn round in class. Like, he said, Mum, it's the same air.
Yeah.
He could, and then the tests, and he was watching his friends, and he said, why are they doing this? Why? And I couldn't, so I was starting to realize how strong that conditioning is about not speaking up.
Yes.
But I thought, I realized, as parents, most of us have been through the school system. So we've had that experience of not speaking up or speaking up. And I remember the chalkboard rubber being chucked at a student's head when I was in secondary school. And then he actually had a coughing fit, an asthma fit. But I don't know what he'd done to warrant that. But I thought, parents aren't questioning, because often they've not questioned their parents and their own parents when things are wrong. You've grown up in houses where, the parents know best. So we encourage our own children. Now we home educate, because we realized the severity of what was going on. And I'm in a fortunate position that, I work part-time in the evenings. My husband's self-employed in the, so in the daytime, we have the ability to work it with the children. But I feel that they've been protected, but it has not stopped me wanting to know what's going on in schools.
That's the thing, isn't it?
I still feel so concerned about what's going on, and I feel like I care about other people's children more than I ever have. My entire life. But there isn't that concern being shared by enough people.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Denene. I really hear you. That's how I feel as well. I've always sort of wrestled with that even since I was a teenager. Like, why is there this sort of weird nuclear family thing where you're only supposed to care about your own nuclear family? And this is a program upon humanity, or upon all of us. I don't mean separate from humanity, obviously. That so many people are saying they care about children, but they're not yet awake. I don't know how else to put it. That's not judgmental, that's fact. And I don't know how to contribute and help anymore, because, I went into my children's schools to speak. People have said to me, you should be homeschooling, you fool, if you're awake. And it's like, my children don't want to be home ed. It's like we are in such a mess as humanity. It's not even about this anymore. It's about, like you said, how are we going to care for everyone's children? How are we going to be able to bring the natural human nature and then mother nature to all when so many people are still under mind control? That's not an insult. That's just
it is a fact. It is a hard fact for people to grasp, because you do not want to feel that has happened. So I will gladly put my hands up and say, I was conditioned and believed so much of what we were taught from birth. And now I question everything. It's about opening your mind and accepting not everything we've been taught is the way it is. And then realizing, when I have people say to me, but what if it is a lie? What does it matter? What if that particular event 10 years ago, what if that, what does it matter? And I said, it matters because those in charge are presenting it as the truth.
Well, so
what else are they presenting as the truth that is a lie as well? You just have this critical eye on everything that comes our way, but then you get the accusations of, oh, you're catastrophizing, and we live in a, everything's good, and I think it's good on a superficial level for many people that I know. But in reality, is it good? If you looked at things with fresh eyes, is it good? Is it good that our children predominantly are communicating through the tech? And I wrestle with the fact that my 16-year-old loves tech, but he is happy to watch videos and find his own things. And he brought something to me recently, an 8-minute clip of talking about some new VR platform where this tech reviewer, yes, he did the spiel about how good it was, but then he really turned it around on his review and said, however, and then he listed all these drawbacks. And it was, and my son could completely see that. But it's what kind of jobs and futures. And I hate even planning, he's just sat 2 exams, and even going back into the system for exams, I was like, so
because what's the point in home ed? 2 exams and then get a job.
Yeah, I know. So it's this tug, because so in school he would have done 9, 10 exams, and then you get accusing, what are your children going to do now they're out of school? As if you're going to leave them to do nothing. And then that juggling of, do they sit exams? They don't need 10. What do they need? And it's almost still playing into the system, but not wanting to. It's a real tug.
I mean, this to me is one of the key points that you're saying, because it's also why I hate sort of being me right now, because I feel so hardcore, because it's like, there is only one system. There isn't an alternative yet. There is only one system, everybody. It's like, so many of us have been trying for decades, and then found, oh my God, we've been shunted down a rabbit hole, whether it was like, nature communities, forest schools, and then it's, or, for me, it was like, everyone's got to learn how to express themselves musically, because that will be their crutch to get through this pandemic. But it's always ending up with, there is only one system. You're being asked to do jobs and careers, and you're being asked to pay to live on planet Earth. So what are we going to do about it? And it does feel overwhelming, but my longing is to see the possibility that we can actually say out loud to ourselves and one another, those in charge of planet Earth do not know what they are doing. They are not fit for purpose. We are going to have to do this ourselves, and we don't even know how to do it. That is quite frightening to come to terms with in itself, because you'll get surrounded by people that say, are you insane? I mean, my mum said to me recently, because I am the only one in my extended group of family, friends, ex-colleagues, who is speaking like this. And of course, my mum said to me, I don't want to hear this stuff. You are talking about my life and my world. That I don't want to hear this. You are anti-establishment. And I said, no, Mom. It's just that when I was a child, I heard a voice within saying, find out what is wrong on planet Earth. Find out. So I'm sorry, I won't talk about it with you. I know it hurts you, but I will be continuing, because I have children and I don't want to leave this planet in horrendous mess, feeling that I didn't try, I did. That's not okay. And it's like, I think there may be the positive thing is, like, maybe our children are really highly aware of it all in a different way to the way we are. And they are here for a purpose too, that they will not take this shit. I mean, I feel so freaked out by the thought that when our children, even if they were home ed, they go out trying to navigate the world of jobs, careers, and corporations and New World Order corporations. They'll be told, you're going to go and work in the Amazon factory. There's a computer there that will tell you what to do. You don't even have to pack the boxes. You're just going to press a few buttons. That is not the future I want to see seeded on planet Earth.
No.
Anyone's child. It's utterly unacceptable.
It's like a dehumanizing planned future. It really, really is, because the people in charge, to me, quite obviously have no empathy, the real human qualities. They cannot possess them. I did a post, it was probably a couple of years ago, about wealth and trying to get people to envisage a million people can probably envisage, based on house prices, but then you go into like 100 million, right? But that's still only a tenth of a billion. And then you have billionaires, plural billions. And I think, how can there be this mass of people in the world with billions with the state of the world as we live in it? How can they just go about their lives? And I thought, they can have no morals, no compassion, no humanity. And, sometimes we're in danger of losing that at our level, when you have this splitting up, fracturing of groups. And there've been some horrible comments within the people who are awake, but those who are still following the narrative, whatever happens to them, they deserve it. No, we can never, I can never say that, because they have been so sucked into the narrative and mind controlled that I feel sorry. I feel sorry for people. I don't want to lose my empathy. But even things like going to a funeral. We had a funeral 2 weeks ago of a wonderful elderly neighbour, and I took the children. It was their first ever funeral, but it was a normal service with everybody there able to hug, grieve. And I think the people who went through that insanity of 6 people at a funeral, 10 people, I don't know what, it was a ridiculous number, but enough people went along with it. If 40 people had turned up outside a creme and we are coming in, but they didn't. It was just this blind obedience, no matter what the regulation rule. And I think people are trying to forget that happened. They're trying to forget the insanity. I have conversations with people about, if something else came in, in my mind, it's when something else is brought in, but if something else came in, and they brought back masks. Oh, no. And they almost scorn people who wore masks. And I think, but you wore masks. And they've disassociated themselves from it because it's not currently happening. And they've forgotten all these inhuman, do not visit in care homes, end of life, do not visit hospitals. I mean, those visits to hospital patients give people a boost. And people lost hope in that time. And
I mean, that is absolutely the case. I mean, I wanted to share like some aspects of that, because I didn't have to go to any funerals in lockdown, but I wanted to, like, I have absolutely done what my inner being told me to do from 2020. I haven't done any obeying of anything, but I want to be really clear. That has meant that I'm now no longer welcome in my career or profession. So I don't want people to get the wrong idea that, there's already a happy ending being lived by so many of us on the planet.
No, it's not.
We are in the mess right now. And as you said, it's like our human nature, our human nature is benevolent and innocent. And that is how it has been so easy to mind control people, because we could not think up these schemes of lying to people, deceiving, deciding to control them, deciding to separate them, deciding to cause division. That is not coming from a human nature. I don't know where it's coming from. It is not coming from a human nature, because like you said, if you were at a funeral or whatever else, or any gathering, people are longing to be together in the physical. And here we are sitting on a freaking machine, having to truth our asses off as mothers, as human beings. It's really unacceptable. And on a positive, I went wherever I wanted in 2020. I didn't do any of the stuff, and I spoke out in the streets. I spoke out in the schools, I spoke out in the shops. And I remember going into a hospital actually to visit an old lady that had fallen down. This was slightly later on, might have been 2021. And I just marched into the hospital and just doing what I'm going to do. I'm doing what I'm going to do. And this is the human nature coming to the fore finally. Do you know what I mean, Denene? It's like we are birthing our human nature for the first time, which is we are individual sovereign beings or souls, whatever you want to call it. And when you and me and someone else decides I am doing it this way, there is no one to ask permission from because it's an absolute shit show. This is about self-permission and self-allowing. I am allowing myself to march into that place. It's not aggressive or fighty. It's like, it's just the human nature. I'm going in there to see a human being. I'm bringing flowers. I'm doing this. You can ask me, where is my mask? I don't wear one, excuse me. Whatever it is, you know, have you been jabbed? Have you been experimented upon and poisoned? No. Excuse me, I'm doing this. It's like this human nature part of us needs to be like full on, fully charged now.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, what else can we do?
Absolutely. And people who aren't used to speaking out have got to just find it. They've got to find it, because what else is there? It's not going to change if they keep silently agreeing with posts and sending private message. Oh, I agree.
So what? So what? Yeah.
And then I go on their pages and I think, what are you speaking out about? And so 3 years on, you know, I remember doing my first live and I was getting upset. It was to do with and a friend had her operation cancelled and things, you know, different. Like, it was just what is going on? I'm feeling really uneasy about things. You know, I don't do lives for bloody likes. I do lives to get things off my chest, to bring facts. I generally read government documents. I think I'm not making this shit up. You know, it's like they're planning door knocking for the new round of boosters. That's deemed acceptable, a way of gathering numbers of willing participants for this latest round of the experiment. It's sickening. How can people not see that? I try not to feel anger at the people I know who are still within the profession, the health profession, who know it's wrong but are still in the health profession. And I think just wrestling with how they can do their jobs. But
let's go into that a bit more deeply, Denene, in part 2, because I'm using the freebie, because I no longer receive a slave wage. I've got to use the freebie machine. And if you don't mind, we'll come in for the next.
We'll come back on.
Thanks so much.